What's up, everybody? We got another episode of the Get Back Guys here today.
Here we go.
This week, and the tardy person is not me. It is Alex. He's running late, doing whatever he's doing, so he might show up halfway through the show or not. We'll see if he makes it. He might not show up. He might just be too lazy to hop on the call. So Kyle and I are taking the reins for this one. So before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, share us around too, because that really helps a lot. And we would love to hear your hot takes on Twitter at the Get Back Guys, and of course, if you listened on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, just glad you're listening. Make sure you subscribe to us. So this episode, I think we'll start briefly talk just overview of kind of the NBA week or whatever. Just a few storylines kind of going on, and then we'll move into some of the coaching hirings for the NFL, and then we'll end it talking about the division rounds, and then the conference championship, some predictions and things like that. So just, I guess, starting off, the real big thing in the NBA is Harden with the Nets. He played his first two games, played really well. They beat the Bucks last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a triple double in his first game, and then he dropped 34 in both of them, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
and
no
Kyrie
kidding.
Irving should be back. I think he's going to be back tomorrow against Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a big interview today talking about that he just needed to take a break and that his head wasn't in the right place, and he kind of needed to reevaluate things. And so I hope everything's okay with him, because the media really, I feel like, painted him out to be just skipping out on work when he could go. And so if it is something more, and there's so much going on right now, that I hope he's taking care of himself. And we talk about that so much, about how like athletes should take care of themselves and everyone should take one on. I'm kind of glad that he hopefully is taking care of it. Obviously, I don't really know too much about the situation, but the biggest thing kind of going on in the NBA right now is the amount of games that are getting postponed. It seems like every night 1 to 3 games are postponed due to COVID, because unlike the NFL, the NFL, you have 5, you're only playing 1 game a week, and you have 5 players on the COVID list. It really doesn't affect that much unless it's like your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And in the NBA, you have 5 players, and all of a sudden you can't suit up for a game potentially. So yeah, what have you kind of heard about? Have you heard anything about that? Do you have any thoughts about the NBA? Do you think they're going to be able to keep going as is? Do you think they're going to have to restructure it all? I know you don't watch as closely, but
Well, what I'm getting with you is that as of right now, it's not too many things or games that are postponing at all. I think as long as it keeps being in that range, and luckily NBA games can happen just about any other day. So if not today, push it back tomorrow. Whereas with NFL, if you can't do it on the one day, well, then we're gonna have to do it on a Wednesday, or just tough it out, see how it goes. So I think NBA, it's a bit more lenient, and I think they're going to end up being okay. But I don't know. It is always possible that there could be so much of an outbreak within the NBA that it could cause a shutdown. I hope that's not the case. I hope that we can keep having more games, as long as people are safe, of course, and hopefully everything goes as smoothly as possible. But beyond that, I'm not really hearing anything of the NBA freaking out that this is going to become a problem. It seems like as long as the cases are very minute, and it seems like it's only going to cancel 1 to 3 games per week, and they can push it back to at least the next day or the day after that, then I think for the most part the NBA can end up being okay. And then as the season goes on, it's probably going to be okay. The teams that are in the playoff contention are going to make sure to not have any cases, while the other teams are going to be like, you know what, their season's over anyway, so we're going to try and be safe and not get COVID. But it's not the end of the world either.
yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, because I actually don't think they've replayed a game that's been postponed yet. And I think what their plan is that, so they only released 37 of the 72 game schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gets him up to I think the first week of March-ish. that they have scheduled. And so what I think their plan is, because the Wizards have missed now 3 or 4 games and the Suns are a couple of games behind.
Yeah.
I think what's going to end up happening is, and it's, I don't have a total kind of judgment on how many teams have missed, just because the Spurs have been able to play all of their games, and obviously I watch all the Spurs games. So, but what's going to be interesting is when that second half of the schedule comes out, I'm guessing that they're going to have teams make up a lot of games, which is going to be interesting, because then we could get like 3 extra weeks of the season where only 8 teams, or half the league, is playing in those weeks because they got hit by COVID. And it's probably gonna make for some interesting drama potentially about, because this year we have the play-in tournament too. So the 7 seed through 10 seed are in a play-in tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a really interesting race if a handful of teams are done, and then a handful of other teams are like, oh, we have to win 6 of our last 8 games all of a sudden that were postponed if we're going to make the playoffs. So I think the NBA will be fine. I think we're still going to get a season, but I think there is going to be, just like how the bubble had some interesting things, there's going to be things that are not normal, just like we saw in the NBA season. I mean, the NFL season was so many Tuesday games and things like that. But yeah, the NBA season's going on. Like most of the teams are playing, I think, as kind of what we expected. I think the 2 teams that have underperformed so far, just kind of thinking about it, is Dallas. And I know Porzingis has been hurt, but they have not been very good. It's like the 12th best record, 13 to 20% done with the season, depending on how many games you've played up to this point. But it's starting to get to the point where it's like, oh, Denver's probably not going to be able to make a top 3 seed now unless they win, an insane amount of games in a row. And another team like that is Miami, which of course we'll ask Alex about maybe next week, depending on how. But they just keep, I think they're 5-7 right now, and in the East, to not be in the top, I think they're also around 11 or 12 in the East. They might be 10. They've really underperformed, but also I know Jimmy Butler's missed a few games. They've had some COVID issues. So there are a few teams that are underperforming. The Suns and the Spurs are both top 5 seeds in the West right now, which obviously I'm jacked about. But so I think in a couple of weeks here, you start to get, we're starting to see what teams are real and what teams aren't. I usually think about 35 to 45% of the games, when those are done, you kind of have a good idea of who's going to be in the running for the playoffs, who's going to be in the running for the top 10 teams this year to have a chance to make the postseason. And so I think right as we're wrapping down football here, we'll really be able to evaluate that. But those are just kind of the only teams that pop off the page to me right now. For a couple of our friends, our Kevin and Justin, who are, semi-rate, guests on the show, regular guests on the show, big Portland fan, Caleb, who's been on the show, and we had a bet about the Portland Lakers series, in the last playoffs. They have also gotten hit by a lot of injuries, to Nurkic and to CJ McCollum, and the West is so tight that you get an injury to a couple of your players for a month, and all of a sudden you could find yourself in a hole where you have to win a lot of games. So I think that's what people should be paying attention for. But I hope everything continues as planned for the NBA, and that's kind of my only thoughts right now. And I'm excited to see Kyrie play with Harden and KD.
Yeah, I mean,
but I guess now let's transition to You got any ideas? Any thoughts?
Nope. Sorry, you glitched out there, but I am back. I don't have anything else to add on.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Yeah, I was thinking let's if you want to bring up some of the coaching for the NFL, because got my NBA ramble out of the way. So let's do you want to list off some who were some of your favorite coaching hires in the NFL this offseason so far?
Who are my favorites right now? Well, first let me rattle off who we got so far in this hiring process, and then I'll give you my
Sounds
favorite
good.
because there's easily a clear-cut favorite that I have right now. But for starters, the Jacksonville Jaguars got Urban Meyer. Everyone knows, like, one of the best college coaches there ever was. The Jets got Robert Sala, who was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers during their Super Bowl run. Chargers got Brandon Staley, who was just recently the Rams defensive coordinator. Let's see here. The I already said that, excuse me. The Lions got Dan Campbell, who was the assistant head coach for the Saints. If I'm getting that correctly,
Yep,
I believe he's the assistant head coach
I
there.
believe so.
The Atlanta, the Falcons got Arthur Smith, who was the offensive coordinator for the Titans. Excuse me, I just had a brain
Titans.
fart there.
Yeah.
And right now, that's all we got. Bieniemy and Double, the Chiefs offensive coordinator and the Bills offensive coordinator still don't have jobs yet, but that can change with the Texans and Eagles depending on how things pan out, or maybe those two teams are still looking at others. I'm not too sure right now. We'll keep you guys updated if we do hear anything else. But those are the hirings so far for the NFL. And easily the one that I love the most is Robert Sala of the Jets. The reason why I love it so much is because not only is he a great defensive coordinator, he's just a great locker room guy. He's good at building players' self-esteem. He's good at connecting with the players on a business and on a friend-to-friend basis. I think that he's just a great motivator as well. And it's not a hiring to where you look at it and you go, oh, really? This guy? Like, it's just dull, boring. This guy is exciting, and he's going to bring excitement to the Jets. The Jets have needed excitement, especially, it being the New York market. There needs to be excitement within a team like that. And I think Robert Sala is going to bring this A game when it comes to that. And he's going to make that defense be really good. And he's bringing in one of the offensive coordinators who works closely with Kyle Shanahan and Mike LaFleur. I believe it's Matt LaFleur's brother of
Yep.
the Packers. I think even
Yep.
though Shanahan was the one calling the plays in San Francisco, Mike LaFleur, who's, brothers with Matt, I think he knows a lot of his stuff, and I think he's going to bring something great to that Jets offense. Whether it's going to be with Darnold, maybe they trade for Watson, I don't know, or maybe they get someone in the draft. But yeah, it just feels like between Robert Sala's hiring and Joe Douglas as the GM, it feels like really good steps in the right direction, and it just makes me happy because the Jets. It's not a team that I really care about, but I just have seen too much suffering for them, and I'm over it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think this and the Urban Meyer are the two best hirings so far.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has a chance to get up there if they get Bieniemy. I think
True.
he's the best coach left out there. But yeah, I'm really excited about bringing the Shanahan McVay LaFleur offensive scheme to the Jets. I think will be really good. They're going to have a good defense, and I don't really know what they're going to get out of Mike LaFleur, Matt's brother, but I'm just excited about like a change of concept.
Yeah.
Whether they stick with Darnold, whether they draft Justin Fields or another quarterback, or whether they trade for Deshaun Watson. I think they're going to be able to be, it's going to be a tough division. All of a sudden, this division's gone from right when Tom Brady leaves, talent starts going to the other teams, and the Dolphins are looking good. They're another candidate for Watson. I think the Jets will be turning up. The Bills, you can never count. The Patriots, you can't count them out. And then the Bills, obviously, with Josh Allen. But yeah, I think it's a great. I echo everything that you said about it. I think he's a great personality to have in that locker room, especially when you're going up against the Bills, who are the biggest kind of threats in that division for the foreseeable future. It seems like they have just a fire to them right now, and we'll get into that more later in the show. But I really like that hiring, and then I really like Urban Meyer as well. I think the Jags, unlike the Jets, who needed kind of a rah-rah guy, the Jags needed like a professional, and that's kind of how I view Urban Meyer, because the Jaguars just haven't been able to get it done for so long outside of one outlier year where they had a great defense. And I think they have a chance to flip this franchise in a division that seems to have total chaos. with the Texans. The Colts also, while I think they're doing a lot of good things with Frank Wright, they do not have a quarterback. And if they don't have a quarterback moving forward, you can't win in this league without a quarterback. We see that with the top 4 teams in the playoffs right now. Arguably four of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL are playing this weekend.
Yeah.
Certainly 4 of the top 5 statistically this year. And so the Colts are in a tough position. And then the Titans, Derrick Henry, how long is he going to be able to keep this going? How long is Ryan Tannehill going to be able to play like a top 10 quarterback? The Jaguars have a real chance. They have a lot of cap space. And I think this is an interesting year for a team that I don't think they go all out this year. I think next year is where they really get a lot of free agents, but they can probably get a couple of bargain free agents because of the salary cap going down, that they can get some guys on regular years who would be astronomical price ranges. Maybe they can get him a little bit cheaper. You get Trevor Lawrence in there, and if he's the real deal, which I think he is, all of a sudden that this franchise could be dominating the AFC South for the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope Urban Meyer is able to bring that franchise to somewhere it really hasn't been. So those are the 2 that I'm really hopeful for. And then obviously I think the toughest hire was the most odd hire was the Lions, but it's just classic Lions stuff right there. And then Bieniemy not being hired by now is really interesting to me. And I feel like, when the Eagles, I didn't really have a chance to talk about the Eagles last week with them firing Doug Peterson because I got on the show late. Do you think Bieniemy could end up in Philadelphia?
Man, with Bieniemy being in Philadelphia, I think that is very possible. I'm not sure. I honestly haven't heard if the Texans have requested an interview for Bieniemy. I haven't caught any sight of that. So maybe it's possible that Bieniemy is like, look, after being with the Chiefs and is a lot of fun right now, and since everyone else has skipped out on me, maybe I just will be here for a bit longer. Or maybe he just thinks that the Eagles are a better destination now because of how the Texans have been treating Watson and their organization. Maybe it's a wake-up call for him to be like, you know what? Eagles wouldn't be that bad of a place as compared to the Texans. So I think it's very possible, but I'm not sure if Bieniemy would really want to between the choice of the Eagles and the Texans. I think Eagles would be a better choice, but maybe he's like, you know what? I'll just still wait another year. I'm still winning anyway, and it's fun in Kansas City right now. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that situation.
Yeah, I think the Texans are really interesting just because it'd be hard to sign off there if you don't have Watson signing off too.
And even if he does get hired,
if Watson isn't,
I was just going to say, even if Watson does get hired or Bieniemy does get hired, I don't know if that's good enough for Watson at this point. It might be too little, too late.
And I think it is. And so you also look at if the Eagles, because when they fired Doug Peterson, the only issue with it, because I think Doug Peterson's a solid coach, is that they would be at the bottom for a lot of coaching hires. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people are going to want to coach in a place that has a bad quarterback situation and has a bad cap situation. But if they're somehow able to get Bieniemy, that's going to be such a silver lining where it looks like they might, just all immediately feel like they have a direction. Yeah. And that would be incredible if they're able to get him. I don't know if he will want to go there, but I'm definitely hoping he does for Alex. Because Bieniemy going there, I think it really flipped that franchise. Yeah, exactly. And so, what are you? Do you have any thoughts on any other potential coaching spots? Because I know the Seahawks have their offensive coordinator available. So, what are you thinking about that? Who do you want? Adam Gase, maybe?
We got to get into this, huh? We got to talk about this, huh?
Well, I think that's fair. We have to.
I think that's fair. All right. This is stupid. This is stupid of the Seahawks to even give this guy an interview. It's the dumbest thing. And I should have known. I was so hopeful and thinking, you know what? The Seahawks have to know to not give this guy even an interview. There's no way. And then they actually did it. Now, I don't know how serious they are. It could just be one of those things where we're like, hey, we're looking at options. This guy was the Peyton Manning golden years. He that one big year it could I can't think that they're even going to pull the trigger in hiring this guy. I can't get myself to believe that they would. I wouldn't be shocked if they did at this point, but I have to think that they know better, and they're just doing this to just get a wide spread of options just to see what's out there. But you would think that you don't need to do that with Adam Gase, you know? Like, you don't think you would need to do that. Like, the reputation outside of the one Peyton Manning year should say enough. So if they actually do hire him, this is only going to make me more frustrated towards Pete. And you've seen my frustrations towards Pete throughout the second half of this season. Like, this is only going to make me even more frustrated because I just think he would be looking at this blind, and he's only sticking to his mantra of pounding the rock with and running the football a lot more than airing it out, which is still fine to do, but make it more creative with that run game than what we got already. Like, make it like the Rams or the Niners. Like, you see that works. They beat you so many times with it. So it makes me very concerned that they're actually going to hire this guy. I don't think he's going to bring that creativity that I was saying before that we could have with a run first offense. God, I can't. It's so dumb. It's just so dumb, and I can't believe I can't believe they did it.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys hire Adam Gase, I don't know what you're going to do because he's got to be your least favorite coach, arguably.
Easily. He should be everyone's least favorite coach. Come on. Like that,
yeah.
it's just so
bad.
frustrating.
And that would, because I feel like I like Pete Carroll more than most.
Yeah.
And I really respect Pete Carroll, but this would be really bad, and it would, I think, show really bad on just the entire organization. Pete Carroll right at the top of the list.
If they
hired Adam.
If Colin Cowherd is saying on his show, why are the Seahawks looking at Adam Gase? He's even saying, like, if he's addressing that, he even addressed on his show, like, after talking about how bad of a mistake it would be to hire Adam Gase. He even said, like, there is some weird stuff going on within the Seahawks if they're actually going to go through and get this guy. And I think he's absolutely right. Like, I think it only confirms what I've been rattling off before with so many of the other issues I've had with Pete and the Seahawks. As much as I love them, as much as I love Pete, I think there are issues, and I think they're going to come into fruition within these next 2 years, especially if they hire Adam Gase. So I'm hoping it's just an interview for interview's sake, but I'm hoping that they pivot and go with some of the other choices that they've been looking at.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, anybody besides Adam Gase would be good. Yeah. I feel like at this point, if they hire Adam Gase, that's going to be real trouble. But yeah, the Seahawks are in a really interesting position because, you guys have to, you haven't made it to an NFC championship game since 2014 with Russell Wilson at the height of his powers, which is tough. So the clock is ticking on Pete, I think, starting now after that Rams loss, especially in how the Rams came out and played against the Packers. So this is going to be a big hire, and I hope you guys get someone that, because I think if you guys get someone, I think you guys can be a successful team with the personnel that you have if you do want to run the ball first, because there's a lot of teams like that. The Packers run the ball more than they probably should, but it ends up getting them so many great play action plays. And obviously we know how good Russell Wilson's deep ball that if you guys can get a solid rushing attack, things can really get going for you guys, because Russell Wilson might not be the shotgun drop him back 30 times a game, especially with that offensive line. So I think it's potentially a pretty solid strategy, but you guys got to get a good play caller in there, not Adam Gase, for sure.
I think getting a good play caller will work, but there's two things that are holding back that play caller. One is the offensive line. Like, I liked what I saw through 3/4 of the year, but I don't think it's still there enough to where we can have like a really powerful rushing attack that we really should. And the second is Pete being stubborn and naive when it comes to offenses. Like, I still think despite him wanting a run-first offense, he still doesn't quite believe in, the types of offenses, rushing attacks we are seeing throughout the league. I still think even if we do get like a really good hire, like Pete is still going to be stubborn and be like, no, this is still going to be how we run things. And it may just be another situation that we had with Schottenheimer and Pete, to where it ended as a mutual parting of ways, quote unquote, when really I think Schottenheimer was not wanting to agree to what Pete was asking for, which good on him. I think it is a good thing that we parted ways because of that. And I don't know. I hope that something gets figured out and those two things I listed get fixed, but it might be wishful thinking.
Yeah, so that's an interesting situation for sure.
Yeah.
That and that offensive coordinator position, the Eagles head coach and the Texans head coach are really the three that I'm paying attention to.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything with the Texans, if Deshaun Watson goes to the Bears, I'm going to be so sad. And I hope he goes to the Dolphins or the Jets, which would be really cool. But let's transition here and let's talk about some games.
Oh yeah.
Let's go through just like some quick thoughts on the divisional round games, and then we'll get to our predictions for the conference championship. So let's start with always Packers-Rams. We watched that game together.
We did.
What were your thoughts overall on the game?
With that game, nothing really surprised me. I thought everything went about as much as I expected it to. I'm really happy for your Packers. I'm glad that they, ended up beating the Rams, because that felt like sweet justice for me. But the Packers are looking as scary as I thought they were throughout the year. Aaron Rodgers is on another level. Like, really great job for him. I don't know. I'm sure people have seen it by now, but like the smirk at that play action pass, or before he did that play action pass, it's just good stuff. That's just good football to watch, So the Rams played admirably well. Like, they really tried and stuck through it, but it came about to how I expected, and the Packers pulled away with the win.
Yeah, I mean, it is how I expected it to be. I did expect Aaron Donald to be more up, and him being hurt ended up with Aaron having such a clean game.
Yeah.
And really, I thought our defense actually played pretty well, and especially because Goff actually threw the ball really well this game compared to what he did against the Seahawks. It was like a different person throwing the ball, which makes sense when you're having a surgery on your throwing thumb. But for us to only give up 2 touchdowns and a field goal, especially in this day and age, I thought it was pretty impressive. And I think a lot of people thought that, the Packers just needed to score like 21 points to win this game. And that's exactly how it worked out defensively. We just ended up putting up 32 on them. So yeah, it went according to plan. I think we're playing really, really good football. I think we can beat any team in the NFL right now. We'll talk about that a little more, but really the only thing that kept this game, it was a 2-score win, but it could have been even more if Rodgers missed that throw to Scantling. Lazard had a drop. There was, Scantling and Rodgers kind of had a missed throw, and Scantling drop on that first drive. So there's a few things to clean up for the Packers, but they're playing their best football of all season right now, I think, and so that's looking good. So now let's throw it to the AFC. Bills, Ravens, Josh Allen getting a big win.
17-3.
What are your thoughts there?
I mean, the matchup was great. Like, I think there's quite a few people that are thinking that this game was boring, which I would say that's not true at all. Like, these offenses were still like moving the ball really well, but the defenses, especially the Bills defense, we should give a lot of credit to them. They just put on a show. They were able to make the stops where they counted. They were able to, especially the Bills defense, they were able to hold Lamar like well enough to where they couldn't score outside of 3 points. And I think the Ravens issues that we've guessed throughout the year has been exposed quite a bit. So we'll see how that goes with their off season. But with the Bills, it shows that they can play whatever game that you throw at them. If it's high scoring, okay, fine. We'll, air the ball out. We'll throw it and receivers will go get it. If it's a defensive game, then yeah, okay, our defense is good enough to where it can make the types of plays, make the types of stops in the big moments, and then our offense can go from there. So it wasn't high scoring as I thought it would be, but it was still a really fun game to watch. I loved seeing those matchups, and you know what? I'm still rooting for the Bills. I would love to see them go into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me too. Definitely rooting for the Bills. It'd be really awesome to see them move forward. Yeah, this game. Oh, what's going on here?
Decided to give a little surprise for the people. Here? Are you there, Alex?
I can hear you. I can see you, but where the heck there?
There we go. There it is.
Hey, welcome back to the Get Back, guys. The one you've been waiting for is here.
Hey, we already did the introduction.
Yeah, we're pretty far in.
Yeah,
already got our Eagles talk out of the way.
No coach, no need to talk.
Fair enough.
Well, are you ready to give some hot takes here?
I guess so. What is with these glasses Kyle's got going on?
He's repping. He's trying to be like Tony Stark, you know. Big brain boy.
I feel like I just missed the movie theater, so I'm just putting on these 3D looking glasses to make up for it.
Doesn't look anything like 3D glasses. Anyway, what did I miss? Where are we at? What are we talking about?
Well, right now we're going through the divisional games. We talked already Packers Rams, but you can talk about that when we get to our predictions. So what was your thoughts on the Bills Ravens game? This is the game we're talking about right now.
Felt bad for the Ravens, but love those Bills. Love Joshy. Love the crew. Love that win they threw out there. I was all for it.
Yeah. I also think this game was a little bit closer than people kind of realize if they just watch the end of it, because if they score on that big pick six, the longest pick six in playoff history, I think it was 101 yards.
Yeah.
Obviously a bad play by Lamar, just didn't see the safety. And even then it might have gotten picked off by the linebacker throwing to Mark Andrews there. If they score a touchdown, this game is probably completely different, and it probably comes down to the last drive, I think. And so the Ravens just feel like offensively, like they played into Lamar's running strength, but we know Lamar's a good passer, but what makes him such a good passer is because he can often hit guys wide open because everyone's playing the run. I think we need to give him a few more weapons to really utilize him. Give him a number one receiver. Hollywood Brown's a number 3, number 2 type of receiver. He'll be a lot better if you get him a number 1 option. And I think that was shown where they just weren't able to throw the ball well enough. And I think they just need to trust Lamar. I mean, obviously he threw that bad pick 6, but I think they can design better schemes for him throwing the ball. Like, I'm just trying to imagine, and we'll get to this game in a second, but Baker Mayfield's so good at rollouts, dump-offs, and that's such a big part of, the Packers game is just kind of play action, dump it off to a tight end to kind of unlock some things in the short passing game. And I think Lamar Jackson, that could be a part of his game too. If they need to embrace him throwing the ball more, because I think he can do it. I just don't think they just haven't let the gates open yet. But I don't want to take anything away from the Bills. Defense is playing really good. They've got a really good secondary. I'm excited to see Micah Hyde go up against Travis Kelce because he's my boy from the Packers. Big Dak Prescott pick in the 2016 divisional round. I'll bring it up every time. But I think they're going to have a really interesting matchup. Obviously, that's all dependent on if a certain boy is healthy. So let's move on to your thoughts on that other AFC game, the Chiefs versus the Browns. Kyle, Alex, what were your thoughts?
What a Browns way to lose a playoff game.
Yeah.
You can't beat Chad Henne coming in. That's just it. I felt bad because I love these Browns, and for them to go out and just the narrative be that what a Browns way to go out. But man, the Browns are here to be good for a while. I think they finally got the coach. They've got the quarterback. They've got the weapons. They just need to kind of keep putting it together here and get those last few pieces to pull it out. But man, it would have been so cool if they won. It was a bummer they did. I mean, I'm happy for the Chiefs. Always happy for Andy Reid. And Chad Henne dialed up some plays I was not expecting. He had a couple of nice, good, long third down throws that were, you thought, oh, this will be an easy 3 and out here. Baker's going to get a shot to go down. He just never did. But it would have been cool if the Browns got in. Chiefs getting in makes sense, but it'll be a fun final game for the conference. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys, I felt bad for the Browns, and I thought for the most part they played like a really good game. I mean, unfortunately, between the coach's decision to punt for it on that 4th and 9, and between that touchback call that was made after the receiver got rocked nearby like inches of the goal line, it was just some brutal ways to go in like a playoff loss, especially like the first time you've had a playoff loss in a while. But still, though, I think that they still played really well. I thought Baker was actually dialing up some pretty good throws. A lot of the players made some clutch catches. Defense didn't look that bad to me either. They were playing pretty well. So I think, like Alex was saying, like they're just a few pieces away from really making that push to a Super Bowl. And, despite the Browns losing, it's still a win for the fan base. So props to them. Like the Browns are looking really good right now. And, yeah, Chiefs are the Chiefs. Hopefully Patty's okay. I think he should be ready to go by next week. I would be shocked if he wasn't able to. It sounds like it wasn't a concussion. It sounds like it was like a tweak in a nerve. So I think he could be okay, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So,
well, he's still in concussion protocol.
Yeah,
they announced that today.
Weird. I was hearing that it was just.
I
like
think we'll know in the next. Yeah, I don't know. They haven't really been super concrete about it. It seems like, so I hope he's okay. Obviously, if he's not, that changes everything. This game was really interesting because Baker, outside of that one really bad pick, which ended up not even turning into points for the Chiefs because of that missed field goal, he played really awesome. This game was weird because, you had that big, it could have been 10-16 if that's a touchdown at the end of the half. Instead, it's a touchback, and all of a sudden it's 3-19, and we still end up getting a game out of it. But then obviously you get Patty Mahomes hurt. So 2 kind of really big swingy plays. And then, I don't know how more people aren't talking about how Stefanski did not go for it on 4th and 9, because it just doesn't make sense, because even if you don't get it and you still have to hold them to 3 and out like you would if you punt. And if they kick a field goal, it's only an 8-point deficit. The math just doesn't make sense, just like how he should have gone. It didn't end up mattering, but he should have gone for 2 earlier in the game when he just didn't. So Kevin Stefanski made some really odd thing to watch potentially in the future of him, because he's been so awesome that when you're playing Patty Mahomes, when you're playing Josh Allen, potentially Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson in the next 5 years, you're going to need to be able to make good decisions in those key moments if the Browns are ever going to have a chance to make a Super Bowl with this core and this coaching quarterback duo. That was a really bold play on 4th and 1 by Andy Reid to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. Worked out great. And I was pretty critical of Andy Reid, letting Chad Henne throw the ball deep, for that interception where it led to the 4th down punt for the Browns. But I was a little confused why they're letting Henne sling it 40 yards down the field to get just easily picked off. But then, one time it got him there, but then that big throw won him the game. So, live by the throw, die by the throw, and it ended up working out. I thought it was the Chiefs are as scary as ever. And the biggest thing that I took away is how good that defense played on that last drive to be able to stop a Browns offense that was dealing. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt were running it down their throats before that. Baker was surgical, and they still stopped him. And the reason he probably didn't go for it is because it's 4th and 9. If it's 4th and 5, maybe it's a different story. So the Chiefs are as scary as ever. Alex, what were your thoughts on that game?
Big bummer for Drew if this is his last game. Bummer of the way that game turned out. I wanted the Saints. I'm over Brady. I'm over him being playoff great. He went and just jumped on a really great roster. I'm happy for literally everybody else but Gronk and Brady on the Bucks. Pretty great matchup going in next, but the big takeaway for me was, one, heck of a trick play, bringing in Winston to dial up some big bombs.
Teeters.
Teeters. The man gets teeters or picks, no drops. It's either that or one or the other. But really the narrative is Breeze. It's a bummer that his end of his career just ended in playoff loss after playoff loss after playoff loss and not really getting a chance to go back like guys like Aaron have and Brady have. But, yeah, it'll be a fun matchup.
What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Am I caught up? I'm sorry, I've been glitching out so much. Am I caught up? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're doing good now. Yep.
Okay. God, my Wi-Fi is terrible. Okay. So with that game, honestly, that was the game that I was least interested in, even though it's that Breeze versus Brady narrative.
Same.
Me too.
I'm not really shocked. Brady turned the Bucs into a winning, football team. I'm not surprised that they were able to finally get a win over the Saints, especially when it's in playoffs. Like, you can just never count out Brady. I felt really bad for Breeze, though, towards the end. Like, this might be his last game, and just to go and have it end that way, it's just, it's really heartbreaking. You just really hope that these types of players can get those, big last hurrahs, kind of like how Peyton was able to have his last hurrah, but, it doesn't always work out that way. I feel bad for him. So wish him all the best, whether he's playing or not. But honestly, this game, I didn't really care too much about. I think that the Bucs look good, and I hope the Packers beat them, though. I'd rather have the Packers go in.
To be honest, I feel really validated after this game because preseason I was talking about two quarterbacks, two teams that will make the playoffs potentially and do not scare me at all, and that was the Steelers and Big Ben. And I said he couldn't get it done with AB. He couldn't get it done with L. Bell. What do you think he's going to do with dancing Juju? Nothing. Then I brought up Drew Brees.
Don't you be mean to dancing Juju and the Juju Bees. Get out of here.
No, I like Juju. I really like Chase Claypool. I wish the Packers should have Chase Claypool. And then I talked about Drew Brees, his arm. I don't trust it in the playoffs. And if Jameis Winston starts that game, I think the Saints probably win it, to be honest with you. And Drew Brees just doesn't have it anymore to do it in the postseason. And it's not like he's had an immense amount of success in the postseason anyways, because his style of play just doesn't put fear into any defense, I feel like. Yes, he's one of the best passers of all time, but he's not, getting outside of the pocket, making, big time throws. And Brady, we think of him as a pocket passer, but the amount of big time throws he makes is still incredible. It's one thing Drew Brees is surgical and how he dials up the short game, but his inability to threaten a team downfield, I think, is really what got him. And he threw a lot of bad picks in this game. And my other takeaway is, I'm curious what you guys think about this. And I was kind of listening to a couple of podcasts, PFF being one of them, talking about the Bucs offense. And this wasn't a very good showing for the Bucs, I thought, because they only beat this team by 10, and they were +4 on the turnover margin. That's not going to happen very often where you're +4, and so the fact that they didn't smoke the Saints was pretty interesting to me. And I think Tom Brady's having to do a lot when he shouldn't be, because they have so many weapons, and I think Bruce Arians is actually really holding the Bucs back. His offensive play design is just not good, I don't think, to be honest with you. And I think he is not that great of a coach right now, outside of being a player's guy and how everyone seems to love him. But schematically, I just don't think he's up to the task. And that's what I think the biggest barrier is going to be for them in Lambeau, is the fact that I feel like this offense just has a ton of talent. And that's how they're getting this far. And they ran into, a terrible Bears team. Or no, they played a 8-8 team. How many wins did Washington have?
7-9.
7-9.
They ran into a 7-9 team with Heineke, who ended up playing well, but they ran into him, and then they ran into Noodle Arm Drew Brees. I think the Bucs are a little bit. They're talent-wise, they deserve to be here, but coaching-wise, I do not think they deserve to be here. And I think that will be their downfall in a week from now. So I guess we can go right into predictions.
Real quick, it's funny because I saw a quote today that Bruce Arians said he's been letting Brady do more of the coaching. He's had a big quote where he said, I'm letting Brady do what he wasn't able to do in New England. I'm letting him really be himself and coach and dial up some plays.
And I think those are the plays that work. I think when Brady takes over,
You think it's that way?
Yeah, I don't know. Just from, especially what the PFF guys were talking about, is just how it's like he's coaching in 2005 and not 2020, 2021. And that even though if Kyle Shanahan was coaching this team might be undefeated right now with how much offensive weapons they have. I mean, Antonio Brown's playing. I mean, I know he got hurt and he might not end up playing, but he's their third best receiver. Chris Godwin's their third best receiver. They're number ones on basically every other team, which is pretty insane. And they run the ball too much, and it was a little bit successful for them at the end of the game to put it away. But the reason that game was so close is because they kept running the ball and they didn't let Tom Brady kind of take over. So I think it's going to be real interesting seeing this game. And I guess let's end on the Packers because we got to end on my boys. So let's first talk about predictions. We'll go to Kyle first. Predictions for the Chiefs-Bills game. And just predictions.
My prediction is that the Bills could take this game. Whether it's with Patty or without, I think the Bills are just on a hot streak and on a really good momentum to where they believe in this team and they know that they could take on anyone. And I feel like they could – I think it'll be a close game, but I think they'll push it to the edge and they'll really make sure that they can get a win here to get to the Super Bowl. And that's also my wishful thinking. Like I saw the Chiefs last year. It was a lot of fun, but I want the Bills to be in the AFC for the Super Bowl.
What are your picks, Alex?
I'm happy either way. It's an either way game, which makes it so fun to watch because it's just I become the old guy every time anything happens. Yeah. I get hyped. But I like the Bills because I like a team that has been there and never won to get there and maybe get a dub. Would be really cool. I'm happy with the Chiefs. I will always be happy with Patty. I really like this Bills team, though. I think both games can go either way. I think they match up well. I think it's going to be fun. If Patty doesn't play and the Bills lose, I'll be Nick Foles shocked at what is happening. But I think I guess I'd predict the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm taking the Bills. Get out of here, Bills. We're getting on the table. I'll take the Bills, but I'll take the Bills. We'll have a good time here on the Get Back, guys. Bills.
Love it. Yeah, I think assuming Patty plays, I think it could be a really close game. I am going to take the Chiefs if Patty plays. Obviously, if Chad Henne – sorry, I got to do it. If Chad Henne does start for them, or I think if Chad Henne comes in, and unless it's the last 2 minutes of the game, if Patty gets taken out again for any other reason, Bills win. But I think with Patty, they just look too unstoppable with him. Like it was 22-3, wasn't it, when he got hurt? Yeah. So, but I would love it if the Bills won. I like both of these teams. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are they're going for all time. If they win a Super Bowl, they're going to be considered one of the greatest teams we've ever seen play the sport. And that's why I have a hard time not picking them when Patty Mahomes is suiting up. But Kyle, what do you think for the only game we really care about, the Packers-Bucks?
Oh, I'm rooting for the Packers all the way with this one. I want the Packers to win here. Bray's going to make it tough. Like I do. I love the confidence that you have with the Packers, but I think Bray's going to make it a lot tough and going to make it a close game. And we've seen, as you were mentioning, with Washington and with the Saints, most of their games are always like really close games to begin with. It won't be surprising if that happens here. But I think if, with the Packers, if they find a way to really make that run offense work, despite the Bucs defense being a really good run defense, it's going to open up a lot for Rodgers. And I think even though that secondary group looks pretty good, it looks pretty impressive, I think that Rodgers can still find a way to get it done with the play action pass. So I'm still going to push forward and think that the Packers are going to get to the NFC, but you just know that Brady's just gonna make it hell for them. Like it's just how it works.
I think the Bucks definitely can win the game, but every single time I have watched the Pack play this year, I sit back and go, they actually might be the best team in the league. I think it. The way Rodgers is playing, the way Devontae is dialing it up. I want the Pack all the way.
Robert Tonyan.
Packer, he supports me. When the Eagles get in the playoffs, I support him. When the Pack get in the playoffs, mortal enemies become best of friends. And
True.
I hate Brady. I hate him. I respect the greatness, but I am so over it. Tom Brady's out there talking with Breeze for hours after a win, yet didn't shake Nick Foles' hand, didn't shake this guy's hand, doesn't shake anybody's hand if he loses. He's a sore loser. I can't stand him. I'm tired of the greatness. I would be ecstatic if Patrick Mahomes won the next 7 Super Bowls. I'd have a great time. But I am over Tom Brady winning Super Bowls. I am so over him going. I don't want to listen to another Super Bowl where they just gush over Tom Brady. I think Aaron is sick of it. And I think Mr. Double Check himself about to triple check Brady right into the dirt. I think Aaron Rodgers is ready to dial it up. He's never been more focused. I love it. I think the Pack win. I think it is going to be a good matchup, but I think the Pack win. I don't think the game earlier in the year is any indicator what this game will be. I've been hearing that a lot. Well, they beat them earlier. Oh, cool.
I mean,
now
this
they got
is what Aaron said on Pat McAfee's show. Yeah, but here's shout out to the GOAT for the brand. We all need to get our kicking game better. But the Bucks lost to the Saints this year. Not only did they lose twice, but one of the games they lost 38-3. So they lost worse than the Packers did to the Bucks, and no one mentioned it. I think the reason people mention the Packers loss, it's true. I think the main reason is because we got blown out by the 49ers, and then playoffs came around and we got blown out by them again. I think that's where people are making the connection. But this is a very different team than it was last year, and it's in Lambeau Field, which is huge. Yeah, I think a key for it, I mean, if the Packers are going, if the Packers get a running game, I think they actually could win this by double digits, because Aaron Jones did not have a good game when we played him earlier in the year, and our offense is so based off of running that if we're able to put the best part of their defense on its back foot, a little bit like we did with the Rams where we just dominated up front, then I think we could really end up cruising to a win. I don't know how likely that is because this is a really, really good run defense. And so then it's going to become Devontae Adams, especially if it's a snow game, that helps out Devontae and our receivers beating the corners even better off the line of scrimmage. And then it's also going to come down to our defense. I mean, Jair Alexander, fun little stat for you. According to PFF, he is the only cornerback since they've started starting in 2006, the only cornerback in a playoff game to allow negative receiving yards on them because they had one reception for -3 yards against Jair Alexander a week ago. So he's playing pretty good football, and he can guard any cornerback in the league or any wide receiver in the league right now. Our secondary, Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos, they're still playing really good. And I don't think Leonard Fournette is a very good running back. I think Ronald Jones is a very mediocre running back. They have a pretty good offensive line, and Brady is always going to keep things possible. But I do think as long as we just stick to our game plan and we don't have any wild swing plays, I think that's the big thing. We just don't turn the ball over. I think we have a great chance because, we were up 10-0 in that game, and it felt like we were going to blow it. They made a good play, back, throws it, they score another. And so as long as we don't have something like that happen to us and I don't think that's going to happen, Aaron does not throw a lot of picks in Lambeau, then I think we have a really good chance to win this game, and I think it'll be very different than last time we played them. I just think we're playing with so much confidence. And another key that's going to be really, really big is our 3 edge rushers. Zadarius Smith's played pretty consistent all year, but he's played his best football in the last handful of weeks. Preston Smith was terrible, especially through the first 6 weeks of the year, which is when we played the Bucs. He's played a little bit better. He had a couple of pretty big plays against Goff batting down passes. But the real key here, because obviously if you can get pressure on Brady, you can really change the game. Rashawn Gary over the last 3 games, which have all been pretty big games because it's been us fighting for the 1 seed in a playoff game, and all against decent teams, the Titans, the Bears, and then the Rams. He is the highest graded edge defender in the league over the last 3 weeks, according to PFF. If he is able to play that good, he had 7 pressures last week. If he does something like that, Brady is not going to have the kind of game I think he did against the Saints, and I think that's a great way for us to win. It's getting pressure at Brady and hopefully establishing enough of a run game. We don't need to be dominant there, but just enough of a run game on offense. I think that those are the keys to the Packers winning.
Get your big boy with them big thighs.
He might. I don't know if he's going to be playing. He got a little hurt in the last game.
Oh, he's playing.
I mean, man, they can't tackle him. Big thigh guy.
No, big thigh guy.
So, any last thoughts from the crew about NFL?
Go Pack.
Pack.
Go.
Go.
Go Pack.
Go Bills.
Heat. Way to get a win. Eagles.
We mentioned it earlier. Maybe in a couple weeks you'll have to do a whole piece on what the heck is going on with the Heat.
Well, it doesn't help when you miss multiple star players because they're out for COVID protocols. So maybe they get rid of the virus, then we'll see what happens.
All right, fair enough.
Maybe.
Gotcha.
Maybe.
All right.
Well, I think that's it for this episode of the Get Back, guys. We'll see you next time. Make sure to do all the things that Alex is always talking about. Subscribe and such. Share us around. And, of course, go Pack, go. If you like Tom Brady, I don't care. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack,
you guys.
go.